It looks like I'm doing an eye test. Can you read the first letter on the first line? Hey guys, what is up and welcome to this week's video. Now, I couldn't wait to receive this item that I got for Christmas last year from my parents, and I am a little bit surprised that I myself have not done a review of it until now, especially since it has this strange contraption in it.
Isn't anyone going to ask? Where's it with the glasses?
Of course, I'm talking about Dr. Brian May's book, Queen in 3D, which was released in April 2017. Now, as you guys know from my previous book reviews, I have read quite a few Queen books in my time, and I even have quite the collection.
Do I look like I run a bookshop?
So I thought I would do a rundown of this book and whether or not it was worth putting this contraption on it. Now, for those who do not know anything about this book was written by Queen's legendary guitarist Brian May. It is written all about his experience in Queen, but it's seen through the eyes of certain photos that he took whilst being in the band. But these are photos that you can view using stereoscopic, I hope I've pronounced that right, glasses.
Glasses are cool.
Hence the title Queen in 3D. But generally, I really did adore reading and experiencing this book as a whole. And one aspect that I really love about this book is definitely the fact that Brian May did not use a ghostwriter when he wrote this book. That is something that is incredibly common in a lot of celebrities when they write novels. I thought it was incredibly genius of Brian to write this himself, mainly because I think definitely when celebrities do use a ghostwriter or they do it in transcript, instead of hearing it from a different novelist who is probably, you know, quoting the same stories or the same phrases that we've heard a million times before, but they're just using a thesaurus on it, you generally do feel like it's Brian who's personally telling you about the story of Queen. And I definitely think that it is something that is very much from the heart, and it's also something that many Queen fans have never seen before, as well as something that music lovers and even book lovers, something that even they haven't seen before in a book either. I definitely would not recommend taking this megally, heavy, large book on holiday with you, but I think it is an immersive book, that is for sure. He is the only member of Queen to have released a book about Queen themselves. But I really found it quite interesting when I was looking at certain reviews online or through Queen forums, and a lot of people actually had a few negative things to say about this book. I would say that because I like this retro way of looking at books as a whole, I find it really different and unique and things like that. But a lot of the comments that I saw online from people who did not like it, a lot of their comments was to do with the fact that it was an old-fashioned way of looking at photos. And pretty much they were just also complaining about why didn't Brian just print them out normally and use his commentary about the pictures, because it's more about the story than it is about the pictures. Yeah, I have to admit that my 90-year-old grandmother would have great difficulty in reading this book. Very much when you put this on, it feels like you're about to have an eye test. But it is a really unique and ingenious way to have a look at photos. But of course, if you're not an avid Queen fan, this probably isn't the right read for you as a whole. If you're just trying to find a normal Queen book about their usual history, or indeed a normal picture book, then I would not recommend buying this book. I think for people who have read every single Queen book under the sun and who haven't read this book yet, then this definitely is the right book for you. And in my view, Brian using classic photos in this 3D format is actually quite a unique and clever thing to do. It's a sheer delight because it was clear that he was very enthusiastic about it, and it's also a very interesting way into a different point of view into the lives of Queen. But what also is fantastic with Dr. Brian May's brain is clearly he has thought about the historical photo point of view about it. This is a really ingenious way to have a look at how photos developed as a whole throughout history too. I mean, come on guys, This is definitely the way Brian May would do a book, that is for sure. So was it really a surprise when he produced something like this? Really? And if you don't appreciate what these photos bring in the 3D format, then what was the point in buying this book as a whole, really? The title suggests everything. It's not going to be your conventional book or your conventional way of looking at pictures in a book. Why didn't you just go online to have a look at some of the pictures that might have been released? If you can't take the hint by the title, then really was it a surprise that it included a contraption like the stereo specs, really? And it's also the fact that you need to be interested in all of these different things, whether it be through Queen's unseen photos, whether it be seen through why he chose these different kinds of photos and cameras. You have to be interested in all of these things in order to understand the book, in my point of view, because I think if you're not, then you would find this book to be quite a boring read as a whole, because you wouldn't be interested in what cameras he used, you wouldn't be interested in random stories here and there. It's different, and I think that's what Queen as a whole wanted to do as a band. And if anything, Brian's just staying faithful to the whole, I'm gonna do what I've always wanted to do. I always found this interesting. He's a very clever man. Queen liked to do things in a very different but clever way, and this is Brian's way of telling us about these stories, about showing these photos that were so dear to his heart, because obviously there was a reason why he took them. Because it has to be said, Queen will never do anything normal, even if it's in the form of a book. And yes, of course, I have to admit, some photos in the book work better than others. And like I said before, in the commentary throughout this book, Brian tells you how he took these photos, what cameras he used, you know, his attention of how the band travelled, how they did interviews when they weren't really popular, and as well how overall their lives changed as a band once they became successful. And to be honest, I didn't even know until I read this book. I didn't even know what this was. I didn't even know that stereoscopic or scopic, or however you want to pronounce it, I didn't even know this thing existed until I read this book. And I do photography in my spare time, so I felt extremely dumb about not knowing that this was created in the 1800s. It definitely also gave me an insight into all the past history of photographs as well. You know, and to combine that with sometimes brilliant and interesting commentary of the lives of Queen, you just couldn't think it up, and I think that's what Brian really nailed with this novel. You cannot deny that this is an incredibly unique and rare commentary and point of view that you could get from a rock legend who wrote this book in 2017. I mean, I sure as hell can't see Paul McCartney doing this, so I think it's unique for a musician in particular, someone like Brian May, to do something like this. Even the stories that Brian speaks about in this novel, they're incredibly different compared to anything that you've read about in previous books before. He talks about how the band travelled, how they interacted in different cities and countries. And I think for all these people who are saying that these stories are incredibly boring or random, I actually think that these stories really showed the human side to Queen and to Brian especially. That's the thing that a lot of Queen fans haven't read before. Yes, the book very much focuses on the 1970s. Obviously, Brian mentions about his childhood as well. There's also quite a lot from the 70s/80s as well. There's a lot of the Flash Gordon stuff that's really featured a lot in this book, as well as some bits from the game and a whole chapter on very historical stories about It's a Hard Life. So yes, of course, the detail, and if you're wanting to find out about how post-Queen, you know, post-1986 happened, definitely not the read for you, I'd say. Very much about the early years of Queen, because obviously the more popular Queen got, the more busy they became, and the less time Brian had to take these kind of photographs. But overall, I would say if you can get over the challenges, mainly to do with this, I think you would definitely find it a very intriguing, unique, and different way of looking at Queen's history. And really, the 3D little effects also makes this read more fun in comparison to their other other books. I think overall the presentation of this book is truly magnificent and lovely. The way that they've done a lot of retro colours in the main outside cover of this book is amazing, and then you have the beautiful, bit more simplistic feel to it as a book as a whole.
Looks good.
I mean, look at this. How can you not like pictures like these? You know, majority of these pictures that are featured in this book are all rare and unseen before and not likely to be on the internet either. And I really do hope that one day both Brian and Roger will do a book about Queen's history and life, but I guess we will see what the future holds. But anyways, guys, please do let me know down in the comments down below if you have read this book and what you thought about it, as well as what you thought about this crazy way of looking at 3D photos too.
Is it good? Is it cool? Is it fun?
Did you enjoy it? Was it too much of a nuisance? Let me know down in the comments down below. And if you have not already and you did enjoy this video, then please do not forget to give it a big thumbs up. And if you haven't already, then please do subscribe. And I shall see you in a video very soon. Bye, guys!